Today we'll go over 3 of the 12 principles of animation: squash and stretch, exaggeration, and timing. And we will also review pose-to-pose animation. All right, here we are in Adobe Animate. So you can see that I've exaggerated all the features of this face to express emotion. And what's not so clear, and I'm going to explain to you, is the notion of squash and stretch. So if I were to show you this illustration by Preston Blair, who's one of the classic animators from the golden age of illustration, you see that as this ball falls, it stretches out, and when it hits the ground, it squashes. So things as they move tend to change shape, and you exaggerate different poses in order to emphasize movement, as you can see with this frog, and even with this person jumping. So this is also true of facial expressions. When you're showing surprise or you're showing happiness, you can actually make the entire shape of the face change to emphasize the emotion. So it can be used to emphasize emotion as well as movement. So there's several examples from Preston Blair's animation book, which I'm showing you here, where the head actually completely changes shape as the facial expressions change. Now, Preston Blair was the genius animator behind such famous characters as Tom and Jerry. So you can see Jerry the mouse here. And you can see, especially like with the surprise look on the dog, the head's in a totally different shape than with the angry look. So we're going to get back to Adobe Animate, and I have this animation here for you. And one of the things that you might not realize is that I've also added a third animation principle, and that is the principle of timing. So if I were to take all these faces and just play it, you could see the faces changing shape and changing position. But if I were to take the change the timing on this animation, it would actually not look as good. So let me just show you real quick by changing the timing that it would mess it all up. So you can see that it was about 1.5 seconds, but by changing the timing and pushing all the frames together, that it actually becomes less than a second long. And let's just remove these extra frames from the end. Okay, so now let's show you the timing. It barely registers. It's very hard to see. Well, that last frame is blank, so I'll just remove that. Okay, so here we go. It's only 9 frames, which is less than half a second, and your brain barely has time to register what's happening. So how can we create an animation with both exaggeration and squash and stretch, but also with timing? So I'm going to just start a new one, and I'm going to real quick go over that with you. So I'm going to start out by just doing the eyes and eyebrows. He looks very suspicious, and I'll do his nose because noses don't change very much. And now I'm going to take my character, I'm going to copy him, okay, and I'm going to go out about 5 or 6 frames. I'm going to insert a blank keyframe, and then I'm going to do Edit, Paste in Place. So you have to go to the top and hit Edit, Paste in Place. And I'm going to change my eyes slightly. We'll make them a little rounder. And I'll make the eyeball a little larger. And I'm going to arc up the eyebrows slightly. So I'll just arc them up and erase down here. Now, by doing this, you preserve a sense of movement. And if I wanted to, I could actually go in between and turn on the onion skinning. And in between, I could right click, insert blank keyframe. And I have what happened before and what happened after. So if I just move this down a little, I can see what comes next and what came before, and I can in between it. So in between the blue and the green. And that will make for an even smoother animation. So let's see how it looks now. Without the onion skinning. There we go. Okay, so it's still less than half a second long, so you're going to have to do this for a while. I'm just going to do maybe 2 more frames, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to do the face. So I'm going to go maybe 4 or 5 frames down, right-click, insert blank keyframe. I can go back to the previous picture. I will select everything, edit, copy, and then I will go to the new blank keyframe and I'll do edit, paste in place. That'll make sure it's in the exact same spot. And if I want to turn the onion skinning on, I can see, I'll be able to see a ghost image of it. So I want to make this person look really surprised. So let me go to my eraser and I'm going to completely erase the eyebrows and I will make them higher up and rounder. Okay, and let me erase these eyebrows. And you can still see a ghost image of them because I turned the onion skinning off. Okay, and now I would like the eyes to be rounder because I'm trying to show surprise. I can still see what they look like before because I leave the onion skinning on. And you definitely get a sense of movement. So lather, rinse, repeat. You can keep going, try and create as many different emotions and expressions as you can. You can stop it around the 5 second mark. I'm nowhere near done. I've only have a few frames, and I have less than half a second of animation. But now I'm going to add the mouth. So I'll go to this frame. I'll turn the onion skinning on because I don't want it to be too different than the previous mouth. And then turn the onion skinning off and play it. So you definitely get a sense of movement because it's not going too fast or too slow. Now, this is where the squash and stretch comes in. But you'll notice that I'm not drawing the entire face at once. I'm adding in different details each time. And I'm testing it each time to make sure it works. So you just continue doing that. And notice that I am making sure that I plan the timing out from the beginning. So I go 4 or 5 frames down before I add another blank keyframe. I turn on the onion skinning, and I can then further exaggerate what I'm drawing. But if I find that what I'm drawing is too different from the previous picture and there's too big a jump, I can always make an in-between frame. So let me just play. And that just seems like too big a jump, so I'm going to go in between here. I'm going to right click, insert blank keyframe, and then I have to make it look halfway between this and that. So I just go halfway between so I can still see both of them. The green is what comes after, and the purple or blue is what comes before, and I now have to in between it. So this also is sort of a review of pose to pose animation, where you draw the extreme poses and then you go in and in between them. So in a way, it reviews pose to pose animation, which is what we just did. So our main concerns here are timing, exaggeration, and squash and stretch, which are 3 of the 12 principles of animation. And we're also doing a little bit of pose to pose animation, which is also one of the 12 principles. So let's see how it looks with the in-between frame. I'm going to turn off the onion skinning and we're going to hit play. And I think the timing on this is pretty good. So don't forget that in my previous one, where everything went by too quickly, it really didn't translate that well. But in the first one, where I was very careful with the timing, it actually looks convincing. So timing is an extremely important animation principle here. One thing very important to remember is that if you export it without adding a background color, it's just going to all look black. There's the default background ends up being black. So you have to go to, as we've been doing, you have to go to the timeline. When you're done, you got to wait till it gets to about 5 seconds. And you're going to have to add a second layer, drag it down your stage about 50% or 25% so you can see the entire stage. Go to your shape tool, pick a color that is not dark to contrast with the black. And because you finish the entire movie, and you start at the beginning, the entire duration of the movie will have that background color in it. And then you do File, Export, Export Video.